Hello guys. Today I wanted to show you how can we work with tool calling in Angular. So a lot of people ask how this whole tool thing is working and what are the use cases in a real business context. And since I'm working mainly with Angular, I want to show you how can you utilize a tool calling LLM like functiongemma, which is super tiny and designed for tool calling, and then enable your front-end apps to actually do cool stuff. Okay, so let's look at the features that are possible. So normally on the app, you would be developing things like a theme, switcher, whatever. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you have some functionality inside your application, inside your Angular application, and then you want to invoke that functionality. And then, for example, it could be this is a log dashboard, so these are all the logs, but it could be that if I click on this info, then I'm gonna pre-filter entire dashboard and apply some filters to only for the log type of info. Or maybe if I click warning, maybe I can click button to clear the filters and so on, right? So I have a bunch of functionalities that I need to develop. And instead of just doing this from the UI perspective, where I ask my users to interact with my page, which can be pretty confusing for some of them, I might actually do it different way. In the new world, you could spawn a chat window, but the chat will not be really a chat with LLM like chatbot. It will be command center. I call it command center. An idea is, why don't we let LLM decide what to do on our website by talking to it in natural language? For example, I could say set theme to light, and it just happens. And it will also have the context. I could say set it back to dark. You see, the difference is that I say it. It is inside the context, right? Because I was talking about the theme, the LLM can figure it out to invoke different tools. Maybe I can filter the logs. So I can say filter logs to one only. You see, now entire stuff changed for me. Now I can say clear log filters. Here we go. It changes back. So those kind of functionality with some debugging, I can show you how it's actually implemented. Okay, so let me walk through the code. So here in the AI examples, I'll put the link in the description on the public GitHub. You can go to apps, chat, tools, and then you will see, let's start with the data model. It's a static JSON, but generally it looks like this. So you have a timestamp, info, service, and message. That's it. And then you have a bunch of logs. I mean, quite a lot of them. So this is loaded. This simulates like a backend endpoint, right? I don't want to be building all backend APIs. So I just want to build it in a quick prototype way. Then we can go to app. Let's start with the app component. Here we have a theme switcher, and then the app logs in the middle, and then the app chat. So the interesting part is that it's not all in one component. In app component, I actually divided it on purpose so I can demonstrate that you can plug in tools in more independent way from different components, right? So let's have a look. When we talk about the so we have the theme. This is the app theme switcher, and then you have a component, and it's pretty straightforward. So it has the state, and so far it does not know anything about LLMs. It's just a functionality. It means that if you click the actual button, it's gonna switch toggle the theme, but also the theme service will have the change theme. So you can programmatically say, don't just toggle, but actually set it either light or dark, and then the entire function is here. I have a tiny thing here. This should be this document. Okay. And that's it, right? So pretty straightforward. Then when you look at the logs, it's quite a lot of code in one place, but again, it does not know anything about the tool calling. You can check it yourself. You can see the dependency on the log state, and then it's like a bunch of UI kind of things. The log state, what it does, it gets the log service. The log service is pretty straightforward. It's just an HTTP service loading the logs JSON from the files, pretending to be a HTTP like a backend API. And then we have all logs, and then we derive different view-related data for each component. I put it all in one component. I didn't split it in a smaller parts, but you can technically do it. It's pretty straightforward. The key part is I don't want to bind it with my implementation of LLMs. I want to make it decoupled way. And then the only place that really is related is the chat. I mean, so the chat itself, where we show messages, is not really. But when you have there is also a scroll directive. But the only thing in the chat is this ollama state. That's the important part. And then, so when you send messages to the backend, you need to ollama, you need to adhere to the chat ML because we're sending to the chat endpoint. Maybe I can show it to you. So ollama state will take care of all tool calling. I can remove the debug that you saw before. And then we're using the functiongemma 270M, which is super tiny. Normally the models are like 30B, 20B. This is super tiny. It can run on your mobile actually. And then you have the ollama service, and the ollama service has this chat with tools. So we post to ollama URL on the chat endpoint, and then we provide tools. We can provide temperature if you want, and then the messages and the model that used to be called. So far so good, pretty straightforward, but the whole logic is here. So I have something called tool registry because we have to register tools in order, so you can see how it looks like. It's pretty straightforward as well. So a tool context will contain tool definition and then execute function. I do this so we don't couple tool registry with each functionality. I will show you how it can be plugged in, but I want to decouple. This is like a core service, right? And then you have registered the tool. You need to say what name and what tool context. Tool context again. It's a schema definition for LLM to understand how a specific tool can be invoked, what are the arguments or parameters of the method, and what's the name. And then it gets registered, and then you can get all tools for the prompt, and then get specific tool by name when it returns from the LLM. So you can see this is pretty straightforward and very simple. But when you look at the ollama service, how it's actually done. So a user can invoke the same method, right? It can say, oh, there is I just want to invoke something, and it puts to the conversation signal, it puts a message with the role user, right? And then we have an effect on that conversation, which is an array of messages. And then we say, okay, get all the messages, check the last message. If there is a last message and it's from the user or from the tool, it means we need to invoke ollama endpoint, because a user could say something, and then we need to invoke it, and functiongemma will now return to us with a function call, or it's a tool that's being invoked, and then we also want to call ollama to acknowledge that the tool was invoked properly or not. Unfortunately, functiongemma was not really trained for multi-turn, which means it has limited self-correcting capabilities. You could work it out with more sophisticated model on top, but it has some difficulties with this. I've been trying to achieve this, but like function gamma responds with apologetic message at all costs, and I tried also like the system messages and so on. It didn't have much. So after some research online, I realized that it's too small model to actually, be able to self-correct easily. Maybe if you know how to do it, let me know. And then we have the next and the error, and then inside the next, we put the message into the conversation, but then we check if the message has tool calls, because ollama will respond in the tool call. I will show it to you in a second, maybe even now. I have to, I have to run it again. Sorry, npm start. Just a sec. Yeah, it's starting the server again. But the idea is when we say something, the tool needs to be invoked, and like there is an assistant message, but I really care about the tool invocation in my system in here. Let me refresh that. So when you look at the network, there is a bunch of like chat messages from before. So let's say I want to set theme to light in this situation. You see, there is a chat message, and this chat message is pretty straightforward. It's just, the payload. I just send this user message to ollama, right? And then I also, the ollama already, if I provide those functions, these are my tool definitions. And we're gonna get back to this in a second. But ollama allows you to have separate messages and tools as the different parameters to the API. And then the ollama will respond with either content or tool calls. Assistant will not respond in both. So here normally it will respond if you attempt. So in the function gamma, you really want to get the tool calls, right? And there is a specific way of actually achieve this with ollama. I can show it to you later. But the idea is that if it responds in the content, something is wrong. So it will respond with the content when things don't go very well, right? When it apologizes and so on. There is a slight exception when you actually invoke it for the second time and you say that the theme was applied, then it will sort of like repeat itself in assistant message. That's how it was trained. So you can clearly see the multi-turn doesn't really work, but you really want to call it again to acknowledge. You want to add those messages to the conversation. So you keep the context in a conversation, because it can read the previous messages. It cannot really self-correct or respond to errors or successes, but it's pretty powerful. Anyway, so the tool calls will look like this. You will have a function, and then it will say what is the argument. You do predefine it, but if I put different wording, it might struggle with it. This is why it's important to have the error messages here saying to the user that, look, you should say either light or dark. Saying things like bright or white might be problematic because it's not within something that our system understands. But of course, you can work around these things with embeddings, endpoints, and so on. But it's out of scope of this video. So yeah, then we have the tool call. It returns, yeah, you should call this tool, and we actually calling it, and then we add those messages to the stack, to the conversation. So if it responds with the tool calls, then we say take the first call. This could be maybe improved, maybe iterate over tool calls and so on. For now, I just assume there is only one. Then get the tool by name, provide like returned from ollama. So ollama says change theme is the tool, and it matches the definition of tools I've provided. And then I resolve that. Of course, if it's not found, I want to say, hey, the tool is not found. and then I execute. This is why the tool context has the execute function. And then I create a new tool message with the tool, the function name, the result, if it's anything is returned, and then the tool ID matching the tool ID from the response from ollama. And then I add this to the conversation, and as soon as it's added, my chat, when it iterates over, it will match users and tools, and then of course if the tool it does not start with error, which is my way of writing this, it will consider it successful or error in other cases, right? So if it's a user, it's automatic success. If it's a tool starting with error, it's gonna be error. If it doesn't start with error, consider that a success. Yeah, and that's really it. And now let me show you how you can register a tool in this entire system. So each module will have its own registry function, a registry provider. So here I say provide theme tool. It needs to come from here to avoid coupling. And obviously my entire theme module will know about the tool registry, but only in this place, not in services, not in components. So it's less of a coupling. And then I say register the tool with this name, with those parameters. This is the execute function. I can have some early validations here, but if everything goes nice, I just execute the theme and then provide the error message for the messages really. And then there is a definition that ollama can understand. And then in my log tool provider, I do similar things. I provide one tool called filter logs by level, and then clear logs, right? Which executes on top of the state. The interesting part is, you see, you can touch anything here. You can touch apply filter, you can touch the services. You can also touch components if you want to, but again, it's a little bit not recommended way of doing this. It's good to have things extracted to either states or services. So in here, you can, in this tool provider, we're using the log state, but it could be NGRX, it could be anything really, right? So you wanna keep that also refined, because in here I say log by level. Why didn't I just set filters? You could, but keep in mind that the functiongemma is quite small model, which actually makes it, not so well refined for your use cases. If you fine tune this model, which is not very hard, you would be able to refine it to your own needs. But if you keep it as it is, I would recommend go with specific tools, with more tools, because the errors will happen less often. That's pretty good. But on the other hand, you can play around with it and trade what works best for you. For me, this was the best setup when I played around with it. And that's really it. You can check the code and let me know what you think, if it's valuable to you.